Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be giving you guys a client makeup tutorial today. So as you can see, I have my lovely client here, Stephanie, also known as my best friend. And I'm just going to start off her skin by wiping off any oils or anything that's just like left on her skin that's just not going to help our base with Sea Breeze. And then I'm going in with my Neutrogena water gel moisturizer, and then I use that as a primer just to moisturize her face after stripping it of everything else. As you can see, I'm moving her phone down. Usually I try not to have my clients have their phones in their hands because it just elongates the process, but because, you know, it's my friend and she's my model today, I just let it slide for the primer part for the most part. So now I'm going to be taking the Anastasia Beverly Hills brow gel, and I'll be using that to brush her brows into place, brush it up out the way, so we kind of see what we're working with and it's just not all over the place. And also that also helps with filling in the brows, because you kind of see what to fill in, and when you brush up the brows you realize you have more brow hairs and you don't have to fill in as much. So now I'm going in with my Too Faced pomade and a pencil, and I'm just filling in her brows accordingly. Usually I do brows after the base, but if I'm doing eyeshadow that the eyeshadow might fall down on the face, I try to start with that first so I can then do the eyeshadow and then the base afterwards. And then I just set it with some MAC powder just to make it matte, to allow the product to adhere better. If you ever find yourself using brow products and it's like slipping and sliding, just mattify that area. It's maybe oils or product that's on there that's not allowing the product to stick to your skin well. With brows, you really want to just take your time and just work with them, because most times out of none, your client's brows aren't always exactly the same, and that's fine, because I mean, that's just how life is. My brows aren't exactly the same, so just try to work with that, but try to make them complement each other as best as you can. And yeah, now I'm taking concealer, and this is the Too Faced concealer that I'm using, that I'll be also using for her face later on, to just carve out her brows at this point. I'm taking my time to do that, to just get the desired shape that I want, knowing that I'm doing her brows first before her base. I know that I'm probably not going to touch it as much later on, so it's really important to just perfect it at this point to just make your job easier, so you're not going back in after doing eyeshadow and all of that other things. And I don't use a concealer that's extremely lighter than her skin underneath her brows, just so it doesn't give that halo effect. The concealer is lighter than her skin tone, but not 5 shades lighter. It's more so like 2 shades lighter, if that. So after I'm done cleaning the bottom of her brows, I start to begin to clean the top of her brows using the foundation that I intend to use for her skin. I use that to clean the top of her brows. Now, it's not all the time that I clean the top of the brows. I prefer not to, but because I was trying to get her brows to look as symmetrical as possible, I decided to clean up the top to just shave down the arch that I did on one of the brows and just try to clean it up as much as possible. Just knowing that I've done this before, the base kind of requires more work. Usually when I do brows afterwards, I find it to be a little bit more easier for me personally. So do as you please, but doing makeup for clients, it varies based on clients and the needs that you need to meet for them. So yeah, I don't follow the same routine for every single person, because every single person is different. Every single look is different as well. So now I'm going in with this other concealer. It's the Makeup Forever concealer, and I just use that. I tap it in and I disperse it as I tap. I take my time with this because it's kind of like sets the foundation for the eyeshadow. So if your base is all over the place and it's smudged everywhere and it's just not smooth, it's gonna also make applying the eyeshadow harder. So that's what I do. I just make sure everything's blended, all the edges are blended, to just ensure that my eyeshadow has the best canvas as possible so it can turn out the best. Now I'm going in with the Nude Persuasion palette by Beauty by Melissa. It's a really good palette. I got it recently. It just launched. Very much black girl friendly. And I'm just going in with some of the neutral shades. Well, it's a neutral palette, but I'm going in with some of the shades, and then I'm just building up the depth. So I've started off with her transition color, then I'm going in with a deeper color, and I'll continue to build up the depth of the eye. But I'm not so much concerned with I don't know how to explain it. I'm not so much concerned with making it so perfect, just knowing that I'll be cutting the crease. It's just to provide a gradient. But blending is very important. I do that in this video. Even though I am going to cut the crease, I ensure that it's gradient, and that's why it's important to blend. That's why I have so many brushes in my hand. So now I'm going to cut the crease, and I'm using that same concealer that I used to prime her eyes to cut her crease. I also tap this in, I don't drag it. And yeah, I just tap it where I want the crease to cut, and then I begin to pull the concealer further down, as so. And because she has lash extensions, working with clients that do have lash extensions, you just want to kind of hold them down out the way just to reduce as much makeup that's coming on, that's falling down on them, because they are extensions and they don't just come off as strip lashes. So just trying to ensure that they're clean and that your client doesn't have gunky lashes at the end, just to reduce that. I mean, there's going to be makeup on it regardless because you're applying eyeshadow, but to reduce how much is falling on it. Now I'm going in with the light pink shade in the palette, and I'm just dusting that over her eyelids, and I also tap that in until I get the desired pigment that I want. And then I go in with the white in the palette, and I just put that right in her inner corner, bringing it a little bit up into her crease, just a little bit, just to give it that gradient and to also open up her eyes without having to add any kind of shimmer in the tear ducts. So after I do that, I take my one size Point Made eyeliner, and I use that to just line the beginning part of her eye, so I don't bring the eyeliner all the way out because I'm going to do a blown out eyeshadow look. So I just do it as so, and then I do the same thing on the other eye. It just, I don't know how to explain it. Since it's not necessarily a wing, it just kind of pulls the eye together and makes it look more closed but open at the same time. I don't know, there's an effect that it adds, especially with the lash extensions. It just makes it look more bold, and that's what I was going for. So now I'm applying lash glue because I'm going to apply a glitter right on top of the liner, something very subtle, also from Beauty by Melissa in the shade Date Night. And then I just take a very thin brush and then just tap that right above the eyeliner. I don't want it to consume the eyeliner. I want it to just be like right on top of it. Okay, so now I'm going in with my Fenty foundation, well, Fenty Skin Tint in the shade 20, and this was her perfect match. Like, it matched her to the T. I loved it so much. So this is just me applying the foundation onto her skin, all over, and I continue to add more foundation as I need as I go on. And then now I'm going in with the same concealer I used to cover her eyebrows to conceal underneath her eyes, and then I just do it in the shape that I want to shape her face. So I don't do the whole triangle thing. I kind of just do the inner corner and then bring it to the end of her eye, but I don't bring it all the way out because as I blend it, it will spread out itself to just reduce the product. And then I take the concealer that I used to prime her eyes for the shadow right near her nose. So I don't bring that out at all, just right near her nose, just to add a highlighted look, but not to overtake her whole face because you don't want her to look overly highlighted. And then now I'm taking the Nars New Caledonia foundation, and I'm using that as her contour shade. I didn't want to overly chisel her face, so I didn't want it to be too dark, so it's like a shade and a half darker than her, but that's what I was going for. So then I just contour her nose as well, and I just let everything set. So I blend out the contour shade first. I would more so call it a bronzer shade because it's not giving cool, it's giving kind of on the warm side. So I blend that out first, and then I just tap that in with a small brush. Just tap, tap, tap. I don't drag anything. I just try to push the product into her skin, and then as I push it, I bring it up because I'm not trying to drag her face down. I'm trying to lift it. And I think that's a major thing to trying to sculpt the face, not bringing the product down. And then I go back in with my foundation brush just to blend out the bottom, just to make sure if I did drag anything down that I pull it right back up. And then I go into blending in her concealer. I start with blending the concealer on the top of her lip first because I don't want that to be as dried down as underneath her eye. But then I proceed to blend out her eye, and then I just also tap that in, trying to ensure that I'm not moving the product around too much anywhere I don't desire it to be, and then not bringing it too far out to her face. Just, I don't know, that's just the desired look that I like. So just keeping the concealer kind of where I placed it, not allowing it to move all over the place. So now I'm going with my foundation brush just to mesh everything together, mesh the concealer, contour, foundation, just make sure everything's blended. And then now I'm going in with a smaller brush to just blend out the contour that I put on her nose. Now the skin is giving what it needs to give. We're loving it. And I'm going in with my Makeup Forever press powder, and I'm just using that right underneath her eyes. I set her under eye before I put powder, just so that the powder can sit right on top of it. Personally, when I do my own makeup, I bake before I put the powder, but either way works. I just like using a pressed powder and a loose powder, but it depends on your client. I felt like for this client in particular, I wanted to set underneath her eyes before I bake it because she has deep set eyes, so that the loose powder doesn't just stick there, and it just goes on a little bit more smoother. So once again, when you're working with your clients, you just have to be able to identify what they need, what their skin needs, to just best give them the best beat that you could give them, because sometimes applying the same rule for all your clients kind of hurts you in the end. And now I'm going in with my Sephora Micro Smooth powder. These are like new ones. They came out with new shades. I don't know if it's a whole new formula, but I like it. I use this for all over my face, but for her, it was a perfect bronzer shade. If you can see the way I'm holding the brush, I'm holding it at the very end, and I feel like this is key just so the bronzer or any kind of powder product that you're applying doesn't apply too harshly. Same thing with the blush. I'm using the Beauty blush in Saffron, and just hold it from the very end and then blend it in. I feel like that's when you get your best desired results. If you feel like you've applied too much, just blend. Blend everything into how you want it to look. You can make it as dramatic or as soft as you want, and it just depends on how you blend it out. Now I'm just dusting away the loose powder that I put on the sides of her nose and on top of her nose. And that was just to give her more of like a chiseled look, reverse contouring, I guess you would say. And then I'm going in with the same powder that I used to bronze her face, to bronze her nose now. I'm not using too much product. I'm just running it down her nose and then the bottom and the top. And that'll just give her like a button nose look. Now I'm going in with a clean brush. This brush has no product on it. And I'm just marrying everything together. I'm marrying the blush, I'm marrying the bronzer, everything. And I'm spraying her face because we've used a lot of powder products. I like to spray my face towards this part just to ensure that everything is blended and also to help my highlight adhere and like just also blend into the skin a little bit better. So it's just not another shimmery powder going on top of dry skin. So then I just apply that very meticulously on the bridge of her nose, the very top of the bridge of her nose. I don't bring it all the way down, and then the tip of her nose, and then I take a small brush as well and then just tap that into her skin. I'm not really for a super highlighted look anymore, but just to give her some radiance because we've been using a lot of products and I didn't want to necessarily have the look be completely matte. I feel like after you add the black eyeliner or any kind of eyeliner that would best suit the eye look, it just ties everything together. It makes it look a little bit more completed than it did before. Now I just took the black and I didn't apply any products to the brush again. I just blended it out a little bit and then I took a blending brush and then blended the edges, and then I take a concealer that's a little bit more her shade, and then I just clean up the edges just to give it a little bit more of a sharper, more defined, blown out eyeshadow look. It's really the finishing touches. Honestly, anything you feel like you need to touch up throughout the makeup process of doing your client's makeup or even yourself, just do it. It's makeup. Like, it moves. I promise it moves. Well, it should. And now I'm taking my Vive lip liner and I'm just lining her lips, top, bottom, just following the shape of her lips more so. With lining lips, I be switching my mood. Sometimes I overline, sometimes I line just right. Depends on what the vibe is. This one I just lined her lips regularly. She has full lips, so I felt like just following the shape of her lips already. And then I'm taking this Jaclyn Hill lipstick just as like a base color for the gloss, and then I just diffuse that with the brush. This is also another important step, just blending out lips too, because I feel like sometimes people forget to blend lips. They just apply the product and then rub their lips together, but blending your lips with the brush really makes all the difference. And then I'm taking these glosses. I'm taking two Kylie glosses. The first one is kind of like a pinkier nude, and then I applied that with the brush just in the center to place it. And then I take this Dose of Colors Nima Tang lip gloss just out on the perimeter of her lips just to gloss up the liner. I don't use too much because she's a little bit on the medium to fair side and that lip gloss kind of runs deep, so I just use that to add a little bit of gloss on the outside. And I set her face for one last time to marry everything together. And this is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know if you want to see more of this. Love you guys. Bye.